Hello and welcome to the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, everybody. A weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location here in the heart of the great state of Colorado. My name is Nicholas Raza, and without further ado, I present to you all the Hispanic Patriot Podcast. So we appreciate you guys coming on and joining us like we do every week. So we're going to get right into it because we have a fantastic show for you guys, including a one-on-one between Hugo and gubernatorial candidate William McBride. But first, we want to see what's going on the other side of the country. We want to see what's going on to have a little bit of a laugh before we get into the serious meat of things. So let's dive right into something to laugh at.
No, I'm not.
You guys just want him out? Do you want him trespass?
Anything we can do. Yeah. Trespass, yeah. I just need
trespass. Get him out.
Cuff him, please. It's the only way.
These disruptive damsels.
No, I'm not.
Do we want to chat?
I know that your protocol is.
So you're trespass, so we gotta leave now. Unless you want to be in
We're not trespassing. You haven't notified us that we're trespassing. Number one.
What did
Number
I
two.
just say to you? You're
You're
trespass. Let's go.
Number one.
I don't
Number
want to
two.
arrest you guys.
You're not going to arrest us. Number two
So let's
is
leave.
that
We gotta go. We gotta go.
protocol
Let's go.
is
Let's
the
go.
citizen protocol is if we ask you to turn the body
I don't
cam
want to
off.
deal with this. Let's
Okay.
go.
No,
Who
I
would?
understand you don't want to deal with it,
Okay,
but the
let's go.
protocol
Wait,
is,
wait,
and your protocol
can
is
you
if I
relax?
ask you to turn off the
I
body
love how the
cam,
doorman was just like, cuff him, just get him out of
She's
here.
a lawyer, so she knows.
Well, that's lawyer stuff, so that's not true. So we gotta go.
No, it is. That's law.
I'm an
What's she
AG.
saying?
I'm an AG.
Oh, she's an AG. Oh, well, that changes things.
We're going. Let's go.
Excuse
We're
me.
leaving.
I'm
Here
please
at the
don't, please
station.
don't put your hands on us.
Can you get your children out of here? Like, I don't know why.
I'm sorry, what?
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
No.
Let's go. Come on, you're wasting so much time.
They're two full-grown women and mothers of children. All right.
You're just being detained. You're just being detained.
I'm an AG. I'm an AG.
Throw her a bone. You're just being detained. I'm just getting you out of here. I'm trying to help you.
You're being detained because you're not leaving.
Because I'm what? You have
Can you relax? Sir, she's not doing anything wrong. She's
AG.
not leaving.
I'm an AG.
Let's go.
She's not doing anything wrong besides the things she's doing wrong.
Arrested. Let's go.
I'm not being arrested. You're putting me in cuffs. I'm not being
Okay,
arrested.
do you have any weapons on you?
No.
She's taking this extraction very poorly.
Let me tell you something. You're
Buddy,
arrested.
get the hell out of here.
What are you just...
You're arrested an AG. Let me tell you something.
Her friend's just literally screaming in the
You're
background.
putting me in handcuffs and you're Mirandizing. You're not Mirandizing me.
Relax.
Well, here goes the AG.
Buddy, you're gonna regret this.
Yeah.
You're gonna regret it. I'm an AG.
Oh my goodness. Well, just you couldn't have asked for a more comedic ending, right? I'm an AG, smash, just oh my goodness. So the reason that I want to bring that up, guys, I was very deliberate about this choice, is because, I think it's very interesting how modern people look at law enforcement and specifically being arrested. Being arrested doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Look at our president, Donald Trump. I mean, really. But what I notice is that, so this is from Rhode Island, so that you kind of get an idea of the kind of, person that this AG is. Someone who's never faced consequences in their life. Being calm and respecting police officers when you're being arrested is probably something that every working class person in America knows how to do. It's almost a skill. And most people that get arrested, they're released maybe even the same day. Often because the time was given. There was an awareness that nothing wrong was done. And so we want to make sure that police officers are respected throughout our country, throughout the entire process. Even if you personally don't respect police officers, I don't think there's anyone in our audience who would fit that category. But even if you're one of those people, just comply. Because there's law enforcement and then there's the law. And these are two different things. Never hurt law enforcement when you're opposing the law. That's not right. And another reason I was very deliberate about choosing this is because the lack of humility from that AG, I think, really contrasts extremely well to the utter humility and kindness that we received from gubernatorial candidate William McBride. So, without further ado, here is that interview.
All right, welcome to the Hispanic Patriot Podcast, a weekly broadcast from Denver, Colorado. Deep behind enemy lines, we are honored tonight to have our guest, Mr. Will McBride, gubernatorial candidate for 2026. William Will McBride is an accomplished Colorado trial attorney, small business owner, and community philanthropist who fought for justice inside and outside the courtroom for over 22 years. He is the son of a migrant worker. Mr. McBride has earned the American dream through hard work, obtaining a BA from Florida State University, an MBA from the University of Florida, an MDiv from the Southern Baptist Seminary, and LLM from Florida State University, and a JD from Pepperdine University. Now that's a mouthful. Very accomplished individual, and we're proud to have him on the show tonight to introduce him to the audience in Colorado. Before attending law school, Will taught and coached football in public schools, and as a public schools teacher, he saw firsthand the needs of students, teachers, and faculty. Will believes teachers and faculty must be supported as they invest in our children's future. He supports increasing pay for our educators and improving school safety policies and resources. So without further ado, we welcome Mr. William McBride. We call him Will. And Will, welcome to the show, the Hispanic Patriot Podcast. And we'd like you to introduce yourself a little bit more personal to the audience. So go ahead and do that now.
All right, Hugo. Well, thank you for having me. And I'm excited to visit with you this evening and just share what my vision would be for Colorado. The reason I'm running for governor is because I'm not originally from Colorado, as you read in my resume. I'm from Florida. I did run for the United States Senate in Florida in 2006. I finished second there. We came to Colorado in 2015 because I love Colorado. I've always had a passion for Colorado. I'm a trial lawyer, so I came here to try some cases. And we just love the mountains, skiing, snowboarding, hunting, fishing. I'm going to go archery hunting September 8th near Steamboat. I just love being out in the outdoors, and that's what I wanted for our family. However, my wife and I were very concerned of the direction that Colorado was taking. And we had three options. Either we were going to freeze and not do anything, like some people do, or we were going to flee, leave the state, or we were going to fight. And I'm a fighter. That's who I am. And so my wife and I made the decision that we're going to fight for this. And I've made a case in the past for many times as a trial lawyer, and I'm trying to make the case of how we can win here in Colorado and win back the governor's mansion for the people. As Ronald Reagan said, we the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. So I'm excited about rallying the people to take back our governor's mansion here in the state of Colorado.
Well, thank you, and welcome to the show. We're going to get into some issues, questions with you, as we have with past gubernatorial candidates. So we want to give you the opportunity to elaborate on some of the key issues for the voters. So the first one that is at the top of the list for a lot of folks is, of course, crime. And crime is, as you know, rising in the state at an alarming pace. Unfortunately, Colorado has the dubious distinction of being number one in several key crime categories, car thefts being one of them. So tell the audience as governor, what specifically would be your agenda and priorities to address crime?
Well, as you know, we rank at the top of the country for violent crime here in the state of Colorado, which is very unfortunate. I've had a chance to visit with some leaders in Pueblo, and they tell me the dangerous conditions and how police officers are just undermanned. They don't have the resources, and basically they're just reporting to homicides. And there's a real slow turnaround. Now, there's some really good men and women that are serving us and trying to protect our communities, but they just don't have the support. They don't have the support from the top, from the governor, from the legislators, and from they just don't have that. So I want to make sure, first of all, that we give them the support. We want to fund the police officers. We want to celebrate them. We want to bring people in. But I think it's just really demoralizing when they spend all this time to find someone, arrest them, and then they're just turned over uh, very quickly, and they're back out of the streets. That just is a demoralizes our law enforcement. I want to make sure that we're tough on crime. One of the issues too is I want to make sure that I support our federal government. Now, I don't want to use taxpayer dollars here in Colorado to do the federal government's job, but there's nothing wrong with passing information along to federal immigration enforcement officers to make sure that we get dangerous criminals off the street and eventually out of this country that protects everyone.
Yep. And you segued into one of the issues that I was going to bring up, and that is, of course, the sanctuary state policies that this Democrat government has laid down, and which handcuffs basically our law enforcement agencies across the state. As a matter of fact, Phil Weiser, the current Attorney General, has already moved to sue a couple of different law enforcement officers for cooperating with ICE, which is, to me, it's just beyond the pale. It's asinine. How in the world are you going to say you are for law and order and then handcuff the very law enforcement officers that are, sworn in to protect the public? And that protection should extend across the board, not just against illegal immigrants, but against domestic criminals as well. So it's just a sad situation that we live in this sanctuary state, and I'm hoping and praying that we can elect some common sense people in key positions, especially the governor's office, but also in the legislature that can try to undo that. So the question has always been, what can local law enforcement do to help ICE and other federal officers? And that is, like you mentioned, not necessarily using state funds, because I don't think that's even necessary, but to handcuff a police officer from cooperating and giving information to federal officers so that they can do their job better. It's a win-win situation, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And it's completely insane that Phil Weiser would do that. It's a political move. And that's the sad thing. He is putting his politics above the protection of our people here. And that's across the board. And this is why I'm running, because we need to have somebody who's going to call, as an umpire, call balls and strikes as you see them. And we should follow the Constitution. There's the Supremacy Clause of the United States, where the federal government will trump, no pun intended there, state law. And we should not have sanctuary cities or sanctuary cities or states or laws, because it's unconstitutional. And
Exactly.
we need to make sure that we just follow the Constitution. And we need to, if we don't like it, that's why we have elections, and that's why we can change it. But we can't pick and choose which laws we're going to obey and then hide behind the title of a sanctuary city. It's just completely unconstitutional and doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Now, onto a different type of question. As we know, in Colorado, we have a runaway legislature, as I call it, that is basically just running roughshod over Republicans because they have a majority, and we narrowly avoided them having a supermajority. But the Democrats' past legislature have been on a crusade to decimate the Second Amendment, take away parental rights, and other such activities. So, as governor, what would be your specific strategy to repeal unconstitutional legislation that has been passed in recent sessions by Democrats?
Well, first of all, yes, when you have the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion controlled all by Democrats, of course, you have the fox guarding the hen house, and there's no accountability. But as a governor, I would have the power of the veto pen to be able to stop legislating going forward, and not just sit back passively and wait to see what's happening, but to proactively set the agenda. Because where there is no vision, the people perish. And I want to set the vision. I want to set the tone. I want to do it respectfully so that we can bring people along. Because realistically, in order to win this election, we've got to bring in the unaffiliated. 52% are unaffiliated. And what they're looking for, and what we all really want, is common sense and good government that works for the people, simply protects us, follows our laws, and to be fair. Unfortunately, because we have that legislature that's out of balance, they're doing whatever they want. For example, House Bill 1312, where dead naming your child would have parents guilty of child abuse. That's one of the major reasons why I jumped into this race. I have 6 kids. We homeschool our kids. We're not going to leave here, but no one's going to take my child away from me without taking me to jail first, because I'm going to exercise my First Amendment right of freedom of speech and freedom of religion.
Yep. And I have a few Democrat friends who basically believe the same thing. That's one of those issues, I think, that can bring Republicans and Democrats and Americans in general together, because nobody that's a parent is going to be just willingly be allowing the government, the state government or other local governments to interfere in the raising of their own children. So I think that's a bonding issue that I think that's one of the main ones, I think, also in this election cycle. So I think we should, as Republicans, use that to bring attention to, do you want more of this, or do you want some common sense brought back into legislation?
I mean, take for example, I'm a boxer, right? I mean, I box USA Boxing, and to put a woman, for me to go in and box against a woman would just be dangerous. And this is common sense stuff. This is just ridiculous. That we just need to bring common sense in. We need to communicate in a way so it can be received. And like what you just said, we have to find common ground. And once we can find common ground, as a trial lawyer, that's what I do. When I go in to pick a jury, where they call it voir dire, however you want to say it, I go in there to try to find common ground so that we can establish a bridge so that we can communicate. And then ultimately try to make a case and win that case.
Yep. And the other side of this legislative coin is the attack on the Second Amendment. We've seen some, what I feel, and I'm no attorney, but it doesn't take an attorney to realize that some of these laws they've passed are unconstitutional. I don't personally think they're going to stand constitutional muster when they're challenged in federal court. And I think some of these may even end up at the Supreme Court. So in regards to firearms and the Second Amendment, what do you feel, or what pro-firearm legislation would you personally like to see passed into law?
Well, I'd like to see everything repealed because it's unconstitutional. I'm for a constitutional carry state like Wyoming, like Texas, like Florida and others, because it's a right. And then our founding fathers went so far as to say that we have the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed upon.
Yep.
And if it's a right, you have to get a driver's license because it's not a right. They can test you. You can have to take a driving test. You need to take hours to do that to know how, so that you can use a car responsibly. And then you get your driver's license. Not a firearm. A firearm is a right. And we should be able to have the right to our firearms without any type of class. Now it's a 12-hour class. If they applied the same standard to have an abortion as they do to purchase a firearm, the left would be going crazy. So it's just something that just makes no sense. But you need a strong governor who can actually do this. Now, there's a lot of guys that are running that feel the same way. But the question is, who can get there? Who has the best chance of getting there to be able to make a difference? And I believe, hands down, that I'm that candidate that can reach out to get the middle, because it is about the money. I know there's a lot of candidates saying it's not about the money. But and I want to say this respectfully because I want to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, not to speak evil of another fellow Republican. But bottom line is, you have elected officials, a state senator, state representative, and you have somebody who ran for governor twice and is a former congressman, and they've only raised a few $1,000s, and the donors know it. And you've been around politics long enough, from Florida to Texas to here to Colorado. And when the money's not there and the money's not coming in, there's a problem there. And for us to try to ignore this, that is a big problem, because Weiser raised $3 million. Bennett's up to 2.8. So they're nearly 6 million. And we might have 60,000 between everyone that's raised. Now, I put more than that in personally. I've been self-funding, and I'm willing to put more in there. But this is not a race about somebody like me who can put in a few $1 million to raise a few $100,000 to get beat by 30 million on the other side. That's why I'm calling attention, because if they think $30 million is expensive now to fund, a loss is much more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Democrats want to raise our state income tax to 9.5. There's a ballot initiative to raise our state income taxes to 9.5. Now, on the flip side, I filed the Will of the People 2026 is a ballot initiative to repeal state income tax, to take it down to zero, to be like Florida, Texas, Tennessee. So there's a battle there. I'm a fighter, and I'm looking forward to getting my name out there, people getting to know me and saying, yes. And I know this is the Hispanic show, and there's a lot of Hispanics, and there's a lot of Latinos that share the same value.
Yep.
And for over 22 years, I've spent millions of dollars on television and Spanish television as Abogado William, reaching out and serving people in the Latino community.
All right. Well, segueing into another segment of our economy, and that is rural Colorado. This governor and this legislature has basically, for lack of a better description, have waged war on rural Colorado. And the people in rural Colorado are not happy. And these are pioneers. These are hardworking Americans who value their land, value their freedom, and they love their state. Most of them are second, third, fourth generation Coloradans that have ranches and farms. And this government has waged war on it under the guise that ultimately these policies, are supposed to, help the people of Colorado. But rural Colorado is about freedom. So what have you seen or heard on the campaign trail from rural Coloradans?
Well, I've had a great time to be all over and going down to Alamosa, all the way out to Durango, out to Cortez, Poncha Springs, up through the middle of the state. And I hear the same thing. They feel like they've been ignored. And they say, well, our numbers don't matter. And I'll tell you, look at how Polis, when he ran his campaign, he just focused on Boulder. He focused on the Denver metro area and didn't even care. And realistically, that's what the numbers show. He didn't have to care about them. And that's unfortunate, because you see what's happening. You have the wolves being reintroduced. You have the fires that are taking place. And he's focusing on his people right around this area. And that's where it comes to just character, to say, I want to represent people. Every Coloradan has a right to be heard. And we need to, the bad thing is, if you want to improve our economy, we have to improve our exports. And beef is our number one export. Why are we attacking our ranchers with the introduction of the wolves, or making environmental laws that are taking that away? Also, oil and gas. You have that also, that we can generate, I think we generated 1.9 billion last year. I'm being told that we could do 10 times that amount. So we need to make sure that we have a governor who's going to be for all of the people and not just for his fellow Democrats in Boulder and Denver.
Absolutely. And as we were talking about earlier, I am vice chair in Denver, and our new website is up and running. It's I unabashedly call it the best county website in the state.
Okay.
And
Hello, are you there? I think we froze.
okay,
Can you hear me? I think we froze.
are you there? We had a little connection issue. Okay, we're back on track, but that's technology. What can I say?
Right.
You're
talking about the website and how it's the best website in the state.
Absolutely. And but our new motto in Denver is back to common sense. And basically, we're asking voters on both sides of the aisle to join us in a move back to common sense. And we've spoken to Republicans, independents, Democrats, and a lot of people are listening, because even though they may be registered Democrat or lean Democrat, they're not happy with a lot of what's been going on. And like you said, if a Democrat candidate focuses on Denver and Boulder, they basically have the state locked up. So we want to put a dent in the Denver market and help Republicans gain some traction, and then back that up with other counties around the state and help them to overcome that barrier. Because
Yeah.
if we figured out, if we increase it by a certain percentage in Denver, that we can definitely put a dent in that long-standing uh, mantra that the left has, that says, like you said, why go to rural Colorado if I can just get the votes in Boulder and Denver? I win. So, but if we cut into that margin, that's not going to be the case. So we're working on that part. So these people that are running the state now, um, they don't pay attention to anything. You know um, how many bills were passed in this past legislature?
I think they had introduced 500. I'm not sure how many got through.
657.
Okay, so
Okay. Now you ask the average, and I've done this. I've asked the average voter, and you ask them, how many bills do you think the legislature passed this past session? Most of the people will say 50 to 75. And then you hit them with 657, and they say, what? What in the world are they doing? They're coming up with things that are totally irrelevant and move their own agenda, and they don't care about the people. It's almost like they forget that they're also taxpayers. But like you said, the Democrats pass laws that uh, are for you and me, but they don't care about themselves. So in that regard, the next set of questions that I want to talk about is education, because that's at the forefront of a lot of Hispanic families, and that's our kids are failing, they're falling behind in their education. Uh, Little children's speech development is lagging because of mandated masks at school. This was a few years ago, but even now they focus on all these social engineering topics while ignoring the task at hand, which is to educate the children. So, what do you think this current governor is attempting to do uh, by painting himself as a libertarian? You've heard that, I'm guessing.
yeah.
He uses his back channels.
He's
What's
trying to
that?
he's trying to run for president.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But I think he burned that bridge when he passed this recent law, and instead of vetoing it. But he's using those back channels to keep a heavy hand of government rules and regulations in place, which is hurting our children's education. What is your view on education, and what would you like to see as governor to help the education system in the state?
Well, let's look at the Constitution first. Parents have the constitutional right to be able to train their children and teach them how they feel proper. Our children don't exist to fund the public school system or to get federal dollars. Our children are for our parents to make the decisions to educate. I was a public school teacher. I was certified K through 12, as you read my resume. I went to Florida State University, and I was certified K through 12. I taught public high school and middle school and coached high school football before going to law school. So I've been in the classroom. So I've seen public school education. We also homeschool our kids. We have 6 kids, and at some point in their lives, they were all homeschooled. They also went to private school. But I think that's the parent's decision to say, we're going to put them in the public school, we're going to put them in private school, we're going to put them in charter school, or we're going to be able to homeschool them as well. And we're going to be able to teach them what we want to teach. Now, I believe we need to focus on what really matters. First of all, we need to teach our kids to think, because we are not teaching our kids to think. We're teaching them how to memorize, how to fill in the bubbles, and to get to the next level. That is not education. That is just pushing kids along, and we see what's happening. So I really believe that we need to, because we went from 45th we're 45th in the country right now in Colorado in education. That is ridiculous. That should not be the case. But we need to make sure that we prioritize parental rights and make sure that we have an educational system that fits the needs of that student. Now, you read all those degrees that I went through, but when I was in high school, in a public high school, I was told that I wasn't college material, that I couldn't go to college. And that even made me work even harder, because I wanted to play football. At that time, the University of Miami was recruiting me I was a quarterback, and I know that's your school. And I didn't know that I was going to be able to go to college. But you've got it. I had some learning disabilities that was able to overcome in high school and understand them. That's why I want to be able to help the children and young people to be able to tailor their education for what works best for them, and to be able to give the parents the parental rights to make those decisions. Now, we do not need to be indoctrinating our children as to the social agenda that we've seen with the transgender issues. We need to be able to have kids feel safe in their schools. I have a daughter, and if she were to go to public school, I want her to be able to go to the restroom with other girls, or in the locker room, or play sports against other females, biologically born females, and not subject them to that. And also, look, we're facing a real dangerous situation where you said your kids at school, and you wonder if they're going to be the victim of another mass shooting in our schools. We have a problem there. And that, we talked about guns. The answer is not guns. It's the people. It's what we're being taught. And if we're taught that we come from animals, well, surprisingly, our kids are acting like animals. And that has not been the case here in the United States. If we're going to teach a certain theory of evolution, we should be able to teach creation alongside and let the children make the decision.
Yeah. Well, that's the educational system has gone from bottom up to top down, and that's one of the reasons I was happy to see the president moving to dismantle the DEA and basically, send the schools, the control of schools back to local level.
Yeah.
That's how public education was first started. It was started because parents wanted to educate their children in their communities, and there were a lot of small communities, but each community created their own school system. Sure, they were brought trained teachers were brought in, and kids were educated on the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic, critical thinking, and you had an educated population that started to grow. But then somewhere along the line, it just got taken over and by these globalists and people who are control freaks, and they wanted to have more and more decentralized control, and that's how we end up with what we have today. So I'm happy to see that you're on the right side of that issue. So on the election side, there's been a lot of talk about election integrity. I've been called an election denier by people who themselves are election deniers, but if truth be told. But, we've gone through this cycle from 2020 all the way up to now. And personally, I believe that the downfall or the down slope of this state started when we went to full mail-in voting.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why people want that, because it didn't improve anything. If anything, it made it worse. So what is your position, first of all, on mail-in voting and voter ID with regards to people being able to vote and proof of citizenship?
So I would say no, yes, and yes. So no ballot voting by mail. Too much opportunity for fraud. Yes on the ID. And yes, you have to be a citizen, because if you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be voting at all. And there's nothing wrong with showing an ID when you go to vote.
Yeah. Well, the left's argument to that is that that's racist, because you're forcing minorities to get IDs. And to me, my return argument is, so you're saying minorities are too stupid to get an ID?
I think the thing is they're forcing us to get an ID to exercise our constitutional right to own a firearm.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. See, if there's no rhyme or reason, they have a logical fallacy, because they are wanting to apply certain standards to their issues while they don't apply it to others. And it makes common sense. Just no voter by mail, because there's too much opportunity for fraud. Now, if there's some absentee ballots where we have our service members, men and women overseas, or there's a need, yes, on those situations, I'm for that. But to say that we can't have somebody walk or you drive to the precinct or have somebody pick them up and take them to go vote, that's just nonsense.
Yeah,
I don't have no opportunity. I mean, I think we should have early voting. Let people not just vote on the election Tuesday, but let them, if they want to start voting a week in advance or 2 weeks, and they show up in person, show an ID, and they show they're a U.S. citizen. Perfect. I have no problem with that, and I think that's the way it should be.
yeah. And there is a poll that shows, it's a credible poll that shows that the majority of likely voters now believe that cheating impacted the results of the 2020 and 2024 in certain races elections. So people, the old saying that perception is reality, and people have heard enough, people have seen enough. And while those that did the cheating have gotten away with it so far, I think that this president's move now to try to change the way people vote and getting back to the way we used to vote is a good thing. And I'm hoping that it's going to be effective, because I'm like you. The only ones, in my opinion, that should be allowed to vote either by mail or absentee are military and or people who are incapacitated and unable to go physically to a poll. Apart from that, if you're too lazy to get up and go vote and exercise your constitutional right, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You just don't have that. You don't have that privilege and that right in the right order. In my home country in Peru, Election Day is a national holiday, and you have to show. Everybody has a national ID. You have to show that national ID, and if you don't vote, guess what? You get fined. Now, I don't propose that here, that part of it, but it works down there because people don't want to get fined. So Election Day is a national holiday, so there's no question about being able to get to the polls, and voting is done very orderly. And in a third world country with typically, like in a presidential race, you'll have anywhere from 12 to 16 parties that are being voted on. They get their elections done usually that day or the following day, and occasionally there'll be a runoff. But, people that sit here and say, well, we can't count that many votes. And really, we used to do it.
Yeah.
We used to count them and be done that same night. You have enough volunteers, people can count. And if there's a close vote, you can have, maybe a recount or whatever. But I think it's doable. It's just the people that don't want it. I firmly believe in my heart that those are the ones that want to cheat. So,
also, too, I mean, it comes down to this. I think people just become lazy. I mean,
well,
really.
that too.
And they want some convenience, comfort and convenience. But it's really an honor to vote. And also I see serving on a jury. Whenever I have members come in, a lot of times they don't want to be there to serve on the jury. But it's really our honor to be able to protect our Constitution and to be able to have the integrity and come in and vote. It's not racist because we're applying it to everyone. And I mean, I'm Latino, and I wouldn't have a problem with me going in and voting.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's just become, like you said, complacency and laziness. That's basically what's done. Now, Hispanics, which is my pet project, are entrepreneurial, hardworking. Most of them that come here for the right reasons. They want freedom and opportunity because their home countries have not afforded them that, and they rely, on personal cars and trucks to get to and from their jobs and create businesses at a faster pace than any other demographic. That's a little known secret. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Look it up. Hispanics create businesses at a faster rate than any other demographic. And it's also the fastest growing demographic in the nation. So this war that has been waged on everyday people in their vehicles. You know, there it's been a, uh, uh, a boondoggle, let's say. You know, for people that think that they want to. For some reason, I get the feeling that a lot of these liberals want to turn us into Europe, and I've been to Europe, and I know how they live, and they, you know, and they some of them think Americans are too, you know, privileged, and they have their big houses and their big cars, and you know, drive anywhere they want. Where over there, a lot of the people are on public transportation, but we have Americans here in government that want to turn us into Europe. So, what do you see here in the state? The move, and you've seen it probably in the advent of bike lanes, and for example, I just told my wife the other day, you know, what they're doing to Colfax is criminal. They're changing Colfax, that was a 4-lane highway, into a 2-lane highway, one each way. They're putting bike lanes and a huge median in the middle of the road. And I told my wife, I'll never drive on Colfax again, because that's going to create a mess. It was bad enough with 2 lanes on each side, but these people that are in government that think they know transportation, they think they're going to force people to take public transportation by taking away public lanes and all. So, what do you see a governor doing to try to reverse that trend? Because it's not popular with freedom loving Americans.
Yeah, we're not going to take it anymore, because that's why I'm running, because I'm just sick of this. Because they believe that the government knows best, whether it's education and what to teach our children and how to educate our children, or to indoctrinate our children to from how we should, I mean, drive and bike and get around. Yeah, those things are fine, but we decide what we want, not the government. And I mean, that goes back to Ronald Reagan. We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. But we just sit back, and unfortunately, we've had Republicans, conservatives, just sit back, and unfortunately, there's a lot of whining about it. But I tell people, if you whine about it, but you don't give any money, then you have no right to whine. Because what we have is we've got to give. We've got to give of our resources, time and money, to get in. And if we unite, then we can do something about it. I heard there was numbers of nearly 300 something thousand Second Amendment evangelical Christians, or combined with Republicans, that didn't vote. We've got to get a voter turnout, and we can't sit here and whine about unfair elections or mail-in ballots, and we don't even vote, or we don't get involved.
Yeah.
That's why I'm excited about getting people around the state saying, you got to get off the bench and you got to get in the game. And we can't wait until July 1st after the primary and say, okay, now we're going to have a few months to get ready to take on. By then they'll have $20-30 million, which they've had in the past. We've got to do it now. So yeah, we got to get busy, because the government will continue to tell us what to do unless we finally stand up and say, no, enough is enough. We're not going to take anymore.
Okay.
And that would be my philosophy. That's my vision. And I'm not going to go out there like Polis, when he tried to build that bridge. He was trying to spend $30 million to build a bridge from the Capitol. And it was just ridiculous. The people didn't want it. And I'm so glad people spoke up and said, no mas.
He got smacked down 93% to 7. And I think that was loud enough for even him to hear. And he quickly backed out of that one.
To do it again.
Yep, absolutely. So, you know, this race reminds me of the race back in 18 and 22. And I lost count of how many Republican candidates we have for governor. I think it was somewhere around 15 the last time I looked, which to me is ridiculous. So it's shaping up to be a hard-fought race within the Republican primary. But more importantly, like you mentioned, we have to have a strong candidate that emerges to fight against what appears to be, you know, probably Phil Weiser, unless something legal happens that knocks him out. But
I think it's going to be Bennett. I think it's Bennett, because he's leading by 50 points. So he's up. He's got Bennett. He's got Weiser, and he's got the Washington money, the Washington cronies behind him, and he's
No, you're right. I was thinking of something else. Never mind. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
I respectfully disagree, but I think it's going to be
Bennett is the guy that's going to emerge.
Right.
I think they've already kind of set that ball in motion. And what I heard was that Bennett will endorse Polis for his Senate seat.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I'm seeing that. But
Yeah.
What I want to know is what sets you apart from your fellow Republican candidates that are in this race. Now, my humble opinion, there's only a handful that are viable. Okay. So tell us in your own words, what makes you the candidate that can unseat this monolith candidate out of Bennett that people think is a shoe-in, but I'm not so sure about that. But I want to know from you, why should people vote for you over your fellow Republican candidates?
Well, it comes down to this: is who can bring in the middle, who can take the message of the economy to the middle and bring people in and unite and create and make a case for Colorado that the conservative candidate is the one that they want. Now, it comes down to basically, do other Republicans believe in them? Like I told you earlier, I mean, these are great guys. I've met them on the trail. I'm not trying to say anything negative, but just objectively, go on Tracer. You have a sitting senator who has, I think, $2,900 in his Tracer account, and he's running for governor. You have a state representative who has a few $1,000s, and you have somebody who's run twice and lost, and the Democrats put $1.6 million behind him to attack the number one candidate, and he has a few $1,000s in his account. Folks, the supporters have already spoken. They don't want any of them. None of them are viable, because we can have some great cars, but if there's no gas in the tank, it's not going very far. But again, I tell people, yes, I probably have more resources than what they do, and I put more in so far in self-funding. But at the same time, this is not about me putting a few $1,000,000 in and saying, okay, great, we're going to raise a few 100,000. That's what happened in 22. That's what happened in 18. And we got beat. We've got to get to $30 million. So who can bring the excitement? Who can say who can bring the excitement and not just do the same old boring type of approach? Well, I'm here and they talk. No, we've got to bring excitement, and we've got to go get it en inglés y en español y llamar a los latinos para votar para nosotros. And I've done this. I've spent millions of dollars on television, bringing people in through my law firm that I've done. And I believe I can get the Latino votes. I believe I can rally the unaffiliated and even get some of the Democrats, because I filed the ballot initiative to repeal state income tax. I'm going to do everything I can. And it doesn't matter whether somebody's a Democrat, independent, or unaffiliated, or Republican. I'm going to make sure that I call balls and strikes like I see them with the Constitution. And I want to make sure that I can protect people's constitutional rights. And I can make that case. And I've got to go get that. And I've got to bring people in nationally as well, because this is not a race that we can win on July 1st with maybe $50,000 in the account or $100,000. I've got to go get out there. I've got to get $10-20 million. And we've got to do this very quickly. Now, what's probably going to happen is you're going to have several of these people go through the assembly. They're going to get pushed through the assembly like it's happened in the past. They're going to get 30%. So you're going to have 3 people out there that are going to be running with very little money. And then you're going to have the Democrats put money behind one of them to attack me, because right now I'm the only one that has money that can put it in that primary. And you have 4 people running. The primary is going to be won with maybe 30%, because there's going to be a divided of the 4. But that doesn't do any good. I mean, all those candidates I'm talking about, the handful, I've met with them, and they're good guys. And I think that they're really trying to do the right thing. But when the support's not there, and their names already been known, and they're elected officials, we've got to think about this. And you've been in politics long enough to know that if there's no money there, we're not getting far. And we need somebody that can excite the party and say, we're going to do something different. And I believe that's what I can bring. And I can do it in a very positive way. But I have to be realistic about this as well.
Yeah. Now, a question that has come up to me when I was telling some folks that I was going to be interviewing you and that you were a Hispanic candidate, they go, His name is McBride. So explain the McBride name and the Hispanic connection.
Well, when I was running for the United States Senate in Florida in 2006, I was doing really well. And I love to excite the party because at that point, there was a candidate running who showed that she couldn't win. And I jumped in May. So it's a 3-month race for the primary. And I was doing really well. I went from 3% all the way up to 30%. And then during a debate, somebody asked me a question. Why did you change your name from Rodriguez to McBride? Are you trying to hide the fact that your dad was a Mexican migrant worker? And I said, well, I don't know. I was born as William Richard McBride. And so I had to go talk to my dad. And so my dad told me the story. And then reporters were digging. And then the story was that my dad was born in Tijuana, Mexico. And then when he was 10 years old, he was brought from Tijuana across the border to live with his father in Delano, California. And he went to go live with Cesar Chavez. And so my dad picked fruit, worked with the family. And the rumor was that, Cesar, this is what we were told, that he fathered a child when he was in the Navy in 1945. And that was my dad. And Richard Chavez, before he passed away, confirmed and told us the story. So now I don't know. So I don't know where it came from, but I know I was born as William Richard McBride. Those were the stories that were told to me. But that's how I got the last name McBride. And so when I advertise to the Latino community, I've always advertised as Abogado William, which means Attorney William. And I've done that on Univision, Telemundo, all across in several states across the United States, but mainly here in Colorado. That's why it says Will McBride, because a lot of Latinos will see me as William and not Will. So that's the story I was told. And here you have it. Now, like Paul Harvey, now you know the rest of the story.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
But I was born in Tampa, Florida, and I have a birth certificate I'll show people as William Richard McBride. My mom is from Maryland, although she's from Dominican descent. My grandmother's from Santo Domingo. And on my grandfather, Campbell, their family traced back, and they came on the Mayflower. So we have an interesting background.
Very well. Now, I want to end with this one topic that's important, but very little people talk about it, and that is water. Water is one of the most important conservation issues in Colorado. It has a particular resonance with voters on the Western Slope and San Luis Valley. So a lot of people believe that our rivers and streams are in trouble. So what is your position on water rights, and what would you do to help alleviate that situation that is concerning specifically to rural Colorado, but also to Metro Colorado, because we all need water? So how do you see the water issue?
Well, I've spent a lot of time down in Alamosa. I've been down there several times, and I've heard this because I live in Douglas County. So when I say I'm from Douglas County, they're like, oh, you're trying to steal our water. So I've had a chance to listen to them. And, it's not me, it's the county. But we need to make sure that because we do have a housing crisis here as well. And that's something that needs to be addressed. And so our builders need to make sure that they have the resources to the water without drying up areas like Alamosa. I mean, it would completely decimate them. If we took the water from them, all the years, the generations that they've been there, gone. And that's why it's important that we have a governor that's going to represent all of Colorado. And I have to look at everything on a case-by-case basis, but I want to do what's in the best interest of all Coloradans, not just the ones that are donating to my campaign or those who live around me in the capital and Denver area. I want to say what's in the best interest for those down in Alamosa and the surrounding areas, and see if we can strike some type of compromise. Now, not everyone's going to be happy, but I want to make sure that we can not have a bully experience just because we have the powerful in a position to take advantage of those who are not in the position to speak up for themselves. That's one of my verses as a trial lawyer, Proverbs 31:8-9, to speak up for those that don't have a voice, defend the rights of the poor and the needy, and to do justice. And that is what I want. That's been my motto, practicing law. And that's because I had that when I was a kid. we lost our home. We were defrauded, and we had to live in a car, and the family car, get ready to go to school at a fast food restaurant. And I told my dad one day I was going to be a lawyer to fight for this, for people like us. And that 10-year-old boy still comes out of me, and I want to make sure that I do the right thing for people. And so that's why the water is something that's going to be a very touchy situation, but I want to make sure that we do it in a very just way.
Yeah. And, as you probably know, I'm a history buff, and I know that water rights have started wars, range wars, and wars between countries. So water is a precious resource, and in this part of the country specifically, there's a lot of consternation going on among the rural people, and that don't want to see their water supply taken over by metro areas. And like you said, you have to strike a balance that's fair to everyone. But I think the rural people will be asking you that question if they haven't already. They want to know, what kind of governor you would be with regards to that issue. So that's important. All right. So we're kind of up against the clock. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to give a closing statement to the audience, and then we'll wrap up. So floor is yours.
All right. Well, there are the 3 M's that we need to try to win this race. Number 1, we've got to have the right message. The message is about the economy. We have to focus on what unites us and not what divides us, because we need to reach over to the 52% of unaffiliates and even some of the Democrats who want good government that works for the people and not the other way around. And I want to be a governor that's going to call the shots as the Constitution says. And I want to follow the United States and the Colorado Constitution to protect our freedoms. So that is the message. We got to focus on the economy and focus on providing good government. The next is the messenger. I believe I'm the messenger that has not only academically prepared myself, but through my business. I've run a law firm that's been a national law firm that's generated hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've represented people that have had to stand up to the insurance companies who had nobody to speak for them. And I believe I've had that experience because in my firm, if I don't win, I don't get paid. So I don't get paid to be busy. I get paid to be productive. And as a messenger, I want to be a fighter. I want to fight for you. And I want to make sure that we stand up to the government so that we are telling the government what to do. And finally, it's about the money. Folks, there are some good people that are running this race, but they simply just don't have the money. And they're elected officials. And we've seen that nobody is really stepping up to the plate to support them. I want to be that candidate. It's not about me putting in a few $1 million and raising a few $100,000. We all have to come together, because if we lose this race, it'll be much more expensive. What is the price of our constitutional freedoms? What is the cost to live in freedom here in Colorado and to just be safe in our neighborhoods? That's why we have to give of our time and our resources. That's why I ask you, follow my message. Follow me as the messenger. Choose me. It'd be a great honor. And give the money that you can so that we can stand up and say, no, enough is enough, and we're not going to have it anymore. I'm Will McBride, and I look forward to earning your vote. Thank you.
All right. We have spent the better part of an hour with Mr. Will McBride, a fellow Latino and candidate for governor in the great state of Colorado. We hope that we've brought you enough information for you to consider this candidate, and we look forward to seeing him down on the campaign trail further up. So thank you for coming on the show tonight, Will, and we wish you the best on the campaign trail.
All right. Thank you, Hugo. Muchísimas gracias.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Well, folks, there you have it. Will McBride running for governor. And I just wanted to say, we have only just scratched the surface of this candidate. And we're hoping and looking forward very much to seeing him on the show many more times before all this wraps up next year when we choose the next Republican governor of Colorado. That's all for the show, folks. We really appreciate you coming here every week, Thursdays, 6 p.m. Remember to drop a like, subscribe, and let us know how we're doing and what you'd like to see in the comments below. And if you would like more information on our Lincoln Day dinner we had here in El Paso County, we have one video up right now and another one on the way, including on-the-ground information straight from the source, like you would come to expect from Hispanic Patriot Podcast. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate everything that you do for us, and I believe I hear the outro music. And that, as you all know, is the end of the show. Adios, muchas gracias, and thank you all for another great episode of the Hispanic Patriot Podcast. Take care.